I'm Karima Brown. It's Sunday morning and it's time for The Fix. First up, Eskom CEO Ruyter is in the hot seat, explaining how he plans to keep the lights on and secure our electricity supply. Then we take a look at Oxfam's global report into inequality and delve deeper into the drivers of why South African women in particular face the short end of the stick when it comes to poverty and inequality. And as is custom, we take a look at what's made headlines in the weekend newspapers and why. The Fix starts now. Welcome to this edition of The Fix, where every Sunday we hold decision makers to account. We tell you why it matters, how it affects you, and why you should care. Eskom CEO Ruyter has told South Africa that he's under no illusions about the fact that South Africans expect him to be delivering as he's in the driving seat. He has said he has long-term plans, the first of which is to cut the enormous cost associated with Eskom, especially by using expensive diesel, so he wants to stop that. He joins me now from our Johannesburg studios. Mr. Ruyter, thank you. Warm welcome to The Fix.
Good morning, Karima.
Now, of course, you have said that you are going to deal with the generation problem at Eskom. This morning in the newspapers we read that you're welcoming the mines deciding to procure energy on their own and electricity on their own. Is this an acknowledgement on your part that Eskom doesn't have the capacity to keep the mines' lights on? And how is this going to impact your ability to stabilize the grid?
Karima, so the situation that we find ourselves in right now is that we have 46,000 megawatts of installed capacity as Eskom. That should be more than enough to keep the country supplied during peak hours and to also keep electricity available to the mining industry. However, due to a lack of maintenance and poor maintenance practices in the past, the system is unreliable. It is not a predictable system, and as a consequence what we have is a low guaranteed capacity that we've got available. On any given day we have unplanned load losses of between 10,000 and 13,000 megawatts, and that creates a lot of uncertainty. So what we need to do in order to keep South Africa supplied with electricity is to address the maintenance backlog. And as part of the opportunity that we need to create for ourselves, the headroom that we need to create for ourselves, we are in discussions with the mines for them to supply electricity to Eskom and also to wheel electricity through our transmission network in order to create that space for us to take power stations, individual units offline, repair them properly, and then we're in a position to keep the lights on, as you say.
Would faint on my side. If the mines are able to procure their own sources of electricity, it will actually make your job easier in terms of doing that maintenance work. Explain to us how that makes sense, and more importantly, how that feeds into the idea that, you know, maintenance is actually part of the reason why we have the rolling blackouts and the load shedding that we've been experiencing since December.
Right, so we want to avoid load shedding, first of all, as much as possible. However, when load shedding is implemented, it is done in order to protect the grid. We do not want to be in a position where we have an uncontrolled system blackout. That would be very bad for the economy, and it will take a severe toll on Eskom and also on the country. So that is what we want to avoid. And load shedding is part of a controlled shedding, a reduction in the availability of electricity in order to allow us to manage the availability of electricity in a stable and controlled manner. Now, it makes sense for us to talk to the mines. We don't want to exclude mining companies who have capacity available. We want to purchase electricity from them to cater for some of the gaps that we have in our own system, and we will then use that headroom that is created, the additional capacity that they will provide to us. We will use that to fix our own generation facility and catch up with that maintenance backlog.
Okay, now, of course, one of the big issues that have been the bogey is the potential breakup of Eskom. And this morning in the city press, it says the headline is, "De Ruyter puts a break on Eskom unbundling." And you are basically saying that, according to this article, that if the breakup happens, it means the group has to be broken up into 3 distinct legal entities. And it has implications for things like capital gains tax, the transfer of employees, regulatory issues, and of course the relationship with Eskom's financiers. Now, the unions will obviously welcome this, but the minister's plan, and certainly according to the president, that is the main way forward to actually break the entity up into 3. So what is it going to be, Mr. De Ruyter?
We are committed to reaching the end state that is set out in the government document, which is entitled The Roadmap to a Restructured Electricity Industry, which was released by the Department of Public Enterprises in October of last year. So we're fully committed to that. What we are careful of is, with a precipitous unbundling, to create risks that may end up causing us to have a less stable system. So let me give you an example from the private sector. The old mutual unbundling, from its inception to its actual achievement, took between 3 and 3.5 years, and there was an enormous amount of planning that went into that. So for us to rush into full legal separation from day one creates a number of risks, transfer of assets. Our lenders will be very concerned about the assets that they have loaned us money against. We need to address our employees. We can't just transfer them without consultation. As I've mentioned, there could be capital gains tax events that would cost us a lot of money. So there is a lot of planning that needs to go into the unbundling and restructuring of Eskom. And I'm definitely not saying that we disagree with government on the end state. What we are saying as Eskom is that we need to be quite careful in how we implement this, not to precipitate all of these risks that we first need to understand, assess and manage them properly. What that means in practice, however, is that we have the opportunity...
If I'm to understand you correctly, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that you want to do this cautiously and you want to do it in such a way that it doesn't create problems for you. Unions have read Unbundling as code for privatization.